now call the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency special meeting as of October 4th, 2021 to order at 7 p.m. Today we have, I'm Kristen Chantrell, the Vice Chair. We have Phyllis Berger, Doreen Ryan, Dave Schmidt, Don Fimister, and Gary Gashel.
Fran Kersey.
Oh, and Fran Kersey is our recording secretary for today. Sorry, where's the pledge?
Should be on there now. But we need to do the pledge.
Yeah, sorry, it's not. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, that's much easier. All right, so we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He's not coming today. All right, so we'll start with public delegations. Public delegation is the time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters, issues, or concerns related to approved wetlands permits and in-house proposals, or general topics of discussion are open to comment. The agenda items, referrals, applications subject to a decision by the commission, a public hearing, or in litigation may not be discussed. The members of the commission will not directly answer questions or make comment during delegations. So just to be clear, delegations are for anyone from the public that would like to come up and talk with us about something that is not on today's agenda. Is there anyone here that would like to discuss anything? Okay, so first we're going to continue the public hearing, right? The application of Kristen Clark. Nope, this is the new one.
That's a new one.
So we're going to open the public hearing for the application of Kristen Clark, PE, for Cold Spring Lot Management, LLC, John Drabick, owner, for Nottingham Hills Subdivision Phase 5, prepared for Kristen Clark, PE, English Harbor Asset Management, LLC, for an 8-lot subdivision of property at 121 Upper Patagonia Road, East Lyme, Assessors Map 35.0, Lot 44.
Applicants here this evening.
Good evening,
Hi.
members of the commission. Thank you. Madam Chairman, you may have been prescient in that we are going to ask for a continuance tonight. Essentially, but I want to go through briefly the application itself and where things stand. This is an application, the old Girl Scout camp. Some of this you may recall from when we were here at the last meeting, but we're proposing to subdivide the property into 8 single-family lots, leaving the property, the remaining acreage, which is about 45 acres, undeveloped and in its existing, pre-existing condition, which is the Girl Scout camp that has been in existence since the early 1900s as a, I wouldn't say necessarily permitted use, but it's a legal non-conforming use at this point. I'd point out to myself and my client, we have some level of frustration in terms of the information getting to staff. The reason we're asking for a continuance tonight is because we're from staff getting it either to us or to the commission. There's still a number of things that aren't uploaded to the town's website. But we had a meeting with staff on Friday. I would overall characterize it as a positive meeting with staff, but it's resulted in a number of changes. You may recall when we were here last time, we were talking about a biofilter that's on the area not to be developed. We had proposed that sort of as a all-on, a belt and suspenders approach, but town engineer believed that that wasn't necessary to do that. So that's been removed from that. But if we're going to redesign a little bit the swales and the drainage on the lots in order to make sure that we don't have any issues with maintaining sheet flow in terms of increases, and we had actually a 25% decrease in the sheet flow. We think we can still keep it at 0 or lower, being a negative number in terms of decreasing that. But I'd like to submit into the record the request for an extension, give it to Gary, and then some of the documents that I'm going to refer to in my comments tonight. And that is, the application was submitted on August 5th. And the reason I want to go through this is because I need to stress to this commission, we really need to be able to move this application along. My client is a contract purchaser, has significant financial risk at this point because the delays have resulted in us not being able to meet some of the deadlines in that contract. And I know that that is not the commission's issue in terms of that, but from our perspective, since we think we're doing everything timely, it is a big issue for us. We submitted the application on August 5th, 2021. We didn't receive staff comments until September 12th. We met with staff last week, so approximately 5 weeks went by before we received any of the comments. The stormwater plan was submitted September 7th, prior to the being submitted to the deadline required. And then the agency, as a result of us not having some of that information, decided at the last meeting to hold a public hearing on this, which is its prerogative. I would differ. I think you can only hold a public hearing when there's going to be a potential impact in the wetlands or a substantial impact in the wetlands, not merely for the public interest, but that being said, we're not necessarily opposed to that. As I noted, we hadn't received town staff reviews even after 5 weeks. Now we're going to have additional reviews of the latest design, and that's what's concerning us most. In order to get those in timely, so that when we come back, because with the extension period at your next regular meeting, which is what we've asked for, that we have all that done far enough in advance so that we can get staff comments, we can get our modifications back to the staff or any changes that need be, or sign off on staff before this hearing, so that we don't have to continue it, because as you know, with the subdivision, we're now before the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission can't make any decisions until this commission ultimately issues a decision. So that's really critical to us in terms of that. I'd point out that when we met with the town engineer, he indicated he hadn't received the entirety of the application. And again, I'm only saying this because I want to reiterate my concerns about the ability to properly and expeditiously review these things, because it has a negative impact on us, without a doubt. With regard to the application, we're proposing, as I said, 8 single-family lots. In doing so, we're removing some of the structures that are on the area where the lots would be. And we're going to be using stormwater techniques to deal with in terms of the lots themselves of the development, which I think, based on the meeting, and Tim May from May Engineering is here. If you have any questions tonight, he can address that. JP Marine from Marine Surveying is here as well. He is doing the survey work on this. But we really don't see any negative impact on the wetlands here, or any at all, let alone any significant impact on the wetlands. And so I really would ask the commission to impress upon staff, and obviously by my making these comments tonight, I'm trying to impress that upon staff as well, that we will turn around those comments and concerns that staff had and get them back promptly, but we are asking for the same from town staff on this. And then when we proceed in November, hopefully we can close the hearing on that night and get a successful outcome. Thank you.
So noted.
Yes, and I appreciate, I understand there's a little bit of frustration. We just hired a brand new town engineer, and I think there was a bit.
Understood.
So that being said, the request is to extend the public hearing, so we can go ahead, not the time to open the public hearing, correct?
No, we opened it tonight, and the clock is now running.
So that's
Okay.
The packet that I submitted to you, I think, addresses, just in terms that it addresses some of the concerns that Mr. Gaishel had. It has a design report in there too. Some of it doesn't necessarily pertain to you. There's some documentation on the open space issue. Because that, Mr. Gaishel did a joint memo to planning and to the wetlands. We've put that in there, so if people have questions. But as I said to Mr. Gaishel on Friday, the open space issue is something for the Planning Commission. I don't think we necessarily agree on what we're proposing, but we'll leave that to the Planning Commission rather than put staff in a position where they make that decision.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And so we're asking to extend the public hearing until September 18th or October,
November 8th, 2021 meeting?
oh, the November meeting, November 8th, okay. Okay,
All right.
yep,
I'm going to stick around because I didn't know if we had to send out the notices, and for the record, I believe you have the submissions that everybody was notified as required. I don't know if any of the members that are here tonight have questions on that, so I'll stick around until you.
Exhibit L will be the certificates of mailing.
okay. Yeah, so as far as process goes, there's going to be a few changes in the application. We'll wait to discuss everything on November 8th.
We certainly can. I mean, obviously, the
It's a public hearing, so if members of the public here would like to,
speak, they can.
Yes. Okay,
They're entitled to.
right, right. But as far as presentation, we'll do that on the 8th.
But being, I would think being that there's still some modifications that are occurring regarding the stormwater, but the overall concept, if you want to hear that, at least the public could hear it. The applicant's here tonight. He's got his staff, both his engineer and his land surveyor. So I think
Okay.
at least we can
Yeah,
start
just
this.
a general run through of what the plan is, yeah, okay.
Good evening. For the record, John Paul Marine, Bureau Marine Civil Engineering, Land Surveying in East Lyme. This is the overall situation of the property as it is now. Yellow is the boundary line. These are the proposed lots down here. This is the 300-foot line around the wetlands area. There's a wetlands upland that's about 100 feet above the property down below.
Could you just orient us? I can't see the map, I don't know which way's up or down, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The commission can't see it either.
No.
What about that? Maybe we can put it.
Which exhibit is that, Gary? No?
Yeah, if you want, I'll hold it, and that way you can kind of rotate it.
Exhibit B.
B what?
Spin around here.
Paul, you want me to do that? Okay.
Yeah, sheet 3 of 5.
So let's show them first, and then we'll show them again. Okay. The yellow is the overall property line. These are the lots that are proposed to be put into place down here.
Where is the pond?
The pond is over here,
Okay.
on the other side of the lake, Upper Patagonia.
So the wetlands is the area below?
There's one small wetlands here, and there's another one that's up on the top of the hill, about 100 feet above Upper Patagonia Road. An elevation.
The overall scheme, you were saying it's gonna be some lots, 8 lots kind of over the corner. And then the rest, the rest.
Excuse me, sir, can I have could you ask the witnesses or the neighbors to identify themselves and speak?
Yes, I'm sorry, this is procedurally, so
Yeah.
we need to like announce our name and our address
Oh, absolutely.
before we have questions, but.
I apologize. Les McClarky, we live on, we, my wife Barbara, live on Village Court. So we abut the old Girl Scout camp, and quite frankly, just curious what's going on.
Okay. John Paul Marine again. Again, this particular drawing shows the wetlands areas and the actually disturbed area from the Girl Scout camp. The areas have been cleared with the campgrounds. If you want to show them what we're talking about here. So that's in existing conditions. That's what's going on right now.
I apologize. What's the yellow is existing disruptions?
Right. There's pathways, campgrounds. There's a pavilion type building up here.
Okay.
And your property's up here someplace, as I said, about 100 feet in elevation different from what's going on down here. Bringing us back to the other one that shows the lot layout for the subdivision itself. All of this is staying the same. And then you can talk about the details.
There's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lots. And there's wetlands there.
Make a good thing,
We're putting the easel over maybe that corner. Might there be maybe everyone.
Yeah, maybe right over here.
Presentation at one time. And we got microphones too, right?
I can speak pretty loud if I need to. Okay. Good evening. My name is Tim May. I'm from May Engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. Sorry. This is north. I'll turn it briefly like this just to kind of give the north orientation. Again, the lake is here. There's a small wetlands here. And the wetlands that we briefly talked about is up in elevation, way up, pretty much out of the area of activity. What's proposed will be 5 lots here with 2 shared driveways. And then a little further west, there'll be 3 lots with a shared common driveway. And walking the piece of land after several large rain events and do the hydraulic, the soil.
If you maybe stand over there, because I think you're blocking the view of the commission, just on that side. Great, thank you.
Apologize.
That's good.
The soil group there is pretty much hydraulic soil group B, which has a very large capacity to absorb water. And I've been out there on several occasions after a very large rain event. One was pretty much a monumental, beyond belief rain event. And this particular area here, if you walk this, there's a saddle in the road right here, a low spot. You would think that all this particular area would drain down into the lake. It does not. There's a fairly large stone wall and berm that's built up over the years that, for the most part, keeps the water here. And I didn't see a lot of migration of fines or leaf litter or anything else after large events. So that tells me that the water that comes down through here doesn't pick up velocity and it stays on the site. And so with that in mind, that's the same methodology I wish to design here, is to each house will have a rain garden that'll be sized for an 1,800 square foot roof area. That's a very common size house for this area, and that is what the developer had proposed here. So there will be a rain garden associated with each one of the properties that'll take the roof rain runoff, and that'll be sized up to the Q25 storm event. And that will more than exceed the 80% suspended solids removal required by DEEP and the Department of Transportation. The roads will be bituminous roads, or driveways, and those will be sloped, and those will be sloped to drain off into the woods and to have swales, check dams with sand core filters to further polish the water, and should not have any water coming onto the road of any amount. Same way, the same philosophy approached on this side as well. Each house will have a rain garden size appropriate for that size house. One thing I want to point out, there is a substantial amount of buildings, as we saw on sheet 2, if you recall. I'll go back to it briefly, and just to show you, I did a little bit of calculations today just for sizing purposes. Sorry, my Vanna White skills. Fired. But all these areas you see in orange show the roads, and some are paved, some are not, and there's a lot of outbuildings, a lot of the campsites that had tent platforms. There's open pavilions throughout the whole site for the Girl Scout activities. Those accumulative have more roof and impervious areas than the homes we're actually proposing. So with that in mind, it won't be a trade-off of one roof. It'll be much less roof area, what we're proposing, than what is existing right now with the impervious area for the roofs. Does that make sense to everybody? I want to kind of point out that there's at least 35, 40 buildings out there. Some are 40 by 60, some are 10 by 10, but cumulative, they have a large surface area that is impervious right now. We're actually going to reduce the impervious area for the roofs, and coupled with the rain gardens, that will really dramatically drop the amount of runoff we would expect to be generated, and we'll be infiltrating that into the ground. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, not for you, but in the beginning,
Yeah, sorry, if you could come up to the podium and address this procedurally. Yeah, and address the questions to us, and we'll mediate between, we can't.
Well, that's fine. So I guess my question is.
Sorry, can you just come up?
Can you go to the
over here?
microphone?
Yeah, sorry.
Up on the speaker.
And just state your name again, please, I'm sorry.
Sure. Again, Les McClarkey, 3 Village Court. In the intro, the gentleman here was saying that the intent was to have these, whatever number, small number of lots there, and the remaining property would be, what I thought I heard was continue to be an existing nonconformance called the Girl Scout camp. How did the Girl Scouts get there? Or did I misunderstand the comment?
Oh, I can answer that if that's all right. This particular right here, you see this road right here? This is here and going up, way up into the page, way up high is the other additional 47 acres, correct? So this right here and this right here is, what, 10 acres, maybe, cumulative? Of the total acreage is, what, 66? Yeah. So there's 47 acres that would be remaining that will not be disturbed.
Accessed by the driveway that's kind of there now, for lack of a better word? Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Doesn't look like it. All right, so obviously everyone's welcome to come back on November 8th when we have the full presentation with the finalized plan, and we will still be open for public comment and question at that point. And I guess we're all set for this for tonight.
Just need a motion to continue.
I move we continue until the November 8th meeting.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Will there be notifications going out on that again, like we got this one? Or we'll just have to remember that to put it in our calendar?
It would be posted on the town website, but you won't get a mailing sent to your house.
And that's November 8th, you said?
November 8th, yes. Yeah, it'll be on the town website as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody? All right, thank you for coming, and we'll see you in November.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chairman, members of staff, thank you very much for your time. You can check anybody else that wants.
Thanks. All right, moving on, the acceptance of minutes from the September 13th, 2021 meeting. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes? Or anybody have discussion?
Accept the minutes of September 13th.
John's making the motion. Anyone second?
I second it.
Doreen? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay.
So David Schmidt abstains, everybody else approves. All right, and then ex officio report, no Paul tonight. So then we'll go through new business.
Yes.
Okay. The first one is the application of Andrew Clark, Forest Practitioner for PJ Associates, LLC, Carob John Pollock owner, application for a stream wetlands crossing associated with a timber harvest on property located at Riverview Road, Niantic, Connecticut, East Lyme Assessors Map 20, Lots 6 and 7.
Good evening.
Hi.
I'm Andrew Clark. I am the owner of Limitless Logging, LLC in Old Lyme, Connecticut. I am a licensed forest practitioner here in the state of Connecticut. I've been practicing forest management and a professional logging contractor for the last 25 years. I am also the vice president of the Northeastern Loggers Association and the director of the Connecticut Professional Timber Producers Association. I am here tonight. This is a little different than what I'm used to because usually I'm seeking an as-of-right determination for the whole package, but in most municipalities that I work in, that's the way it is, but I know here it's a little bit different. So I'm seeking a permit for a temporary stream crossing that I need to facilitate this harvest operation on the property of PJ Associates. So this particular property has only really one point of access on the west side of River Road, just south of the cemetery. And in order for us to facilitate the harvest and get the harvested timber out, we need to cross a perennial stream that runs through the east side of the property. It comes in from the north side and runs down, and then turns and runs east under River Road. The way we facilitate this crossing is we use a 25-foot long by 12-foot wide temporary bridge structure that we install in 3 pieces and then connect it together. This allows us to span the stream to be able to cross it with our logging equipment without depositing any organic materials into the stream as we conduct the harvest. This particular crossing area is also an existing old cart path that's probably been on the property for years. The approaches to both sides of the stream crossing are flat, and due to the extreme glacial till on this property, they are extremely stony, but will allow a good approach to the stream, and we don't have to worry about any erosion or sedimentation. During the harvest operation, we maintain hay bales and silt fence on the job, so that way if there's going to be a significant rain event during the harvest, we install those in place to prevent any type of erosion problems during the storm. Once the project is complete, we remove the bridges, we mulch both approaches, we stake hay bales in on either side of the approach, and because of the timing of this, we plan on doing that this fall and into the winter. We will not be able to seed it, so we'll just be mulching it, and then next spring the natural vegetation will take hold. I usually come back and visit the site too, just to make sure that everything looks well. I am the supervisor on the job, so I'm on the job daily, keeping an eye on things and making sure my crew's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Does anybody have any questions about this?
So I know, because you had wanted some copy, were you able to see the plan? Or I don't know if all of you
Is that in the
have?
packet that you?
It has like a hang, it's like,
Yeah, no, it wasn't in that packet.
Okay, yeah, 'cause-
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought everybody had a copy of the map. I apologize.
We did a sidewalk of this, right?
No, this
No.
is a different
Oh,
one.
this is a different one.
This is a
Okay,
different
I'm
one. So
sorry.
if you wanted to cite, this is, tonight we were receiving the application.
Oh, okay, this is new.
is there like, is there an address? I'm trying to look it up on
No.
map, orient
This
myself.
is right by Lily B. Haynes, right where that old cemetery is
We're-
right there.
The old Catholic cemetery?
Yeah, that's what this is?
Yep. It's just the entrance to the property is on the south side of it.
Okay.
The, see,
I couldn't
you know
read
that
it on.
freeway stuff?
Yes, I know
here?
exactly what you mean, and I
Okay.
know where the cemetery is, yes.
Yeah, so.
And are all
the
these
entrance-
houses?
So the road, the cart path is right past the cemetery?
Yes, there was actually, there's another piece of property just south of that access that's owned by the
Here's the
same gentleman, John Pollock. And there was an old farmhouse there at one time, and there's old driveways going in. The house has been long torn down, but
Okay.
there is existing access. But yeah, there's an old road that went, that was the way I believe that they've always accessed the property. Nobody has been on this property in years, have done anything with it.
So have you notified the abutters?
No,
Was there-
I have not.
Is that
No.
required?
No, they're just making application, so unless we held a public hearing, they have to notify the abutters. They do have to provide us a list of the abutters, which was
Yes, I
included in
provided
the
a list.
application.
So there's quite a few, aren't there? I thought I
so
saw the list this afternoon. There were,
1, 2,
for the
3,
Lake Paddock, yes, if
4.
there were.
oh, you didn't notice it.
There's 4 private abutters. Then you have the state of Connecticut, town of East Lyme, and then another parcel that's owned by one of the owners as well.
So are we determining if it's a public hearing? Is that what our purpose is today?
Well, being that he's asking for a permit, so yeah, you would determine whether or not it needs a public hearing. If you wanted to site walk it, you certainly could put it on the agenda for a site walk. You could even issue the permit if you'd like this evening. You have 65 days to act on it. Obviously, as you heard, he does want to get moving
Yeah.
with the project.
Mhm.
In my review of the description, I mean, it sounds pretty standard in terms of timber harvest. They're not going to be stumping
No.
anything,
no.
so.
This is not a conversion.
That certainly helps with erosion, soil, and sedimentation. And the slash, are you just leaving the slash?
The slash is to be locked to 4 foot, and we're making wildlife piles with the slash. Yeah,
So that also
brush
helps
piles.
with erosion sedimentation control
Right.
as they move around the site.
Has this
Um,
property been surveyed?
Yes, actually, it has. It
Definitely
was, it
sure.
was surveyed this last winter, yes. Yeah, that was one of my requirements. I've been actually talking with this gentleman for over 20 years. And 20 years ago, he contacted me about this property. And I told him, you need to have it surveyed, because there was just nothing. The deeds had no description. There was no physical evidence on site. And by nature, I've become a surveyor, because when you work in the forest, you end up having to do that by default. There was nothing, so I told him, once you have a survey, call me. Well, 20 years went by, and he had a survey, and he called. So yes, it's been field identified, and I actually walked with the surveyor too, and they did a nice job.
Hey, Gary, can you just explain, so the last time that we had an application similar to this come through, we did a site walk. Is that just because timing, we were able to put it on the agenda?
Probably,
Okay.
most likely. That's why. I don't think, the last timber harvest, I think it was off of Naomi Lane, maybe. I know Mr. Biala once had one
Yeah,
on his
right.
property, but he had a crossing that we permitted that he actually made improvements to. He put a pipe in, so that was permitted.
Got it,
And
okay.
obviously utilized as part of the
Yeah.
forestry. But,
Right, and this is purely temporary, and nobody else will be accessing this once
How
we're
wide is
done.
the stream where you're gonna be crossing it?
About 12 feet,
Okay,
yeah.
the bridge span is 25.
25.
25, yeah.
okay.
These are solid oak bridges that we
Mhm.
actually set into place, and then they fasten together with bolts, and then we're just able to drive across. And it's standard practice in the forest products industry.
And I think it's a better option than a corduroy.
Mhm.
You know.
So, yeah, it is. I
Wider
mean,
span, and it's less material in the stream bed.
today, these mats that you see them on power line projects, they use them everywhere just for ground stabilization. There's no, and they're so abundant now, there's no reason to use corduroys. We just lay mats in and do our thing and take them out. And you have a little bit of soil compaction just from the weight of the mats, but nothing that's significant by any means.
Does anybody have any questions?
As far as the duration, you're going to be finished next spring, or is it going to?
Oh, yeah, well, it's approximately a 10 to 12 week duration, but that's weather permitting. We're coming into the time of the year where if this winter, if we have a rough, really wet winter, we won't do anything. And it'll wait until the dry weather. It could wait until May, but, it's hard to say. Ideally, we want to do it in the winter, out of the growing season. That's the idea on this particular property. That's at the request of the landowner.
Okay, I'm just wondering, maybe you can condition the permit
That's
to
what I was
expire
thinking.
within that, because it's a temporary.
Yeah, can we
Structure.
condition that, make sure that it's not done during a wet time?
You would,
Or would it be better to condition it on
you would
the?
just, the permit would expire
Timeline.
on, or
Okay.
within 6 months of issuance, so.
Okay,
Or something
yeah.
like that. That
Yeah.
gives them a window of 6 months to do it. It's not necessarily the period of low flow, because you will have the spring season, but if he's hoping to be done prior to May, April is kind of wet, so.
Well, I was saying if we couldn't work for some reason this winter, we wouldn't be starting till, the
Right.
dry weather. But I just wanted to make sure I put that on the record, that even though we want to do it now, Mother Nature doesn't always necessarily agree with my projections of time. I more want to have the permit ready, so when I decide to go, if it's the right time, we just go. And we don't have to,
You could put a term limit, maybe July 1. Is that too, you think
no,
that's
that's fine. That's more than generous,
what I was thinking?
you know.
It covers the whole window of time. And worst case scenario, if it was really wet, they could finish the work in the summer. you
Yeah.
know. They could even come back to the commission and request to
If I
extend.
needed an extension, yeah.
Okay.
And I would notify before we begin and during, so if there's ever a want for a site inspection, I'm more than open to that anytime.
Okay. All right.
So it's your discretion if you would like to make a motion or go walk it first.
Anybody wanna make a motion?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll make
No,
a
I agree.
motion to approve the
App-
application.
For
With
temporary stream
An
crossing.
expiration date of June 1st,
July
2022. July 1st, 2022.
I'll second that.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's low impact.
Okay.
Okay. All those, everybody, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Did you get all the names? Like, I'm Doreen, I'm the one who, okay.
And John.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
just making sure.
All right, so then, yeah, Gary will put everything together, the conditions, and you just let them know when you're gonna start work. I think that's great.
All right, and I'll just get a copy in the mail of,
Yeah, when I generate the paperwork, I'll forward you a copy.
all right,
We'll publish notice in the paper. There's a 15-day appeal period.
okay.
Assuming no one appeals, you should be good to go.
All right, great, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a good evening. Thanks.
All right, next we have the request of John Duran, Willow Land LLC, for release of the performance bond for 67 Spring Glen Road, East Lyme, in the amount of $3,000.
Here, I do have. So here are.
I think
Pictures of the backyard, 67 Spring Glen.
Where's Springville? Heights?
So from the photographs from each side of the house, the vegetation's pretty thick. There's a small, short lawned area, which is consistent with the plan. I also have a copy of that here as well if you want it. I would say they kept within the limit of disturbance. And the site is stable.
So, sorry, what was this? So they had a application approved and gave us,
$3,000 for erosion and sedimentation control.
okay, and then you followed up,
They built the house, they've gotten their CO, but we still hold the bond amount to ensure that the
Got
site
it.
remains
Okay.
stable.
and you looked and everything looked stable.
You
Yes,
satisfied with what they've done?
I am satisfied.
Yeah.
vegetation is
Right,
solid.
no, I just,
Yeah.
Yes.
No complaints from the neighbors or anything?
No, there was actually some optimism that they could build a house on their lot.
Oh. So much fun doing
Okay.
I would move we release their bond.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor? Yes.
Sure.
All right. Everybody approves? All right, the next one is a request of Lori Zrenda for a release of the performance bond for 21R Upper Walnut Hill Road, East Lyme, in the amount of $5,000.
I'm just gonna keep up to right with you, sorry. Keep things squared away here. pictures from 21R Upper Walnut Hill Road. These are taken earlier this summer. But as you can see, the lawn has filled in and is established, and just behind it is that nice patch of cinnamon fern in the area. The wetland is further back in that wooded, shaded area where it has a nice tree canopy. So the buffer's been stable and wasn't impacted. Again,
What was done on the property?
single-family house.
Oh, okay.
And we did have some requirements that they provide a vegetative buffer approximately 25 feet in width, comprised of wetland-tolerant native plantings such as winterberry, high bush blueberry, red osseous dogwood, northern arrowwood, pin oaks, etc. So those plantings are in there. You just can't pick them out unless you walk through it. So I think based on the plantings that were installed and the vegetation from the photos, I'm satisfied with the work and that the bond could be released.
Good. Make a motion that we release the bond for Lori Azenda for $5,000 for erosion control.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
That was everybody.
And Don made the motion and David seconds.
Yeah.
Yep, perfect. All right. All right, another one. Request for C.J. Barty of 5 Liberty Way LLC for storage place, DBA storage place for a release of the erosion and sedimentation control bond for 5 Liberty Way, East Lyme, in the amount of $12,000.
So these were taken today.
Oh, this is the storage
Oh, this is
unit.
right off the
Yeah.
Rocky Neck connector.
I used to drive by there every day on the way to the gym, but I can't go there anymore.
So the lawn has established. It's obviously it's not as lush as some of the other photos that you've seen tonight, but it is in. There is some areas that are bare. I almost think they might need a little bit more loam and seed to really establish that lawn. If you see on this page 2, in the top left corner, on that detention basin there, the side slope just below the fence is pretty sparse.
Yeah.
So while I'm in favor of saying the site is stable, you can see from the wood line that goes behind the building has been maintained. There's some larger, looks maybe some blue stem grasses along that edge as well that's remained there throughout the project, so it hasn't been disturbed. But the lawned area that has it really needs to be like overseeded or something. So the bond amount that we currently hold,
$12,000.
$12,000. So I certainly think it could be reduced. You could hold a portion of it, and we can request that they go back and add additional loam and seed and they could possibly redo that, get that in this fall, and then by next spring they could be back here asking for the remainder.
What usually gets their attention to just do it? I mean, make sure, how do we make sure it gets done? I mean, does he put more grass on there?
How do we make sure
Well,
it gets?
how long's it been since the project for this thing existed?
It was 2019.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute, hang on, that was what?
And this particular area is right along the stream, isn't it?
It's very close,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
We approved it May 7th of 2019,
Oh.
so it's been built.
Why don't we just leave it where it is as an added incentive to hurry up and get it done?
We can do that too.
Well,
It's a question, I mean.
Right.
You don't have to release any of the monies, and you can just say, please go.
I mean, is it fair to do half? If we do 6 and
I
say
did-
for the other 6, you need to.
I would say you don't need all 12 for this
Yeah.
work. It's not a total of 12. It's probably
I
half
can
of
live
that.
with that.
Not even, probably not even
I'm
$2,000
sure it's not even
worth.
half, but yeah, if we, at least so they know we're discussing it, we've reviewed it and released 6 of it, recognizing that
They need to do
they
more.
need to do, yeah,
That's like 2 years, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
I can
Okay,
go along with
so
that.
I'll make a
I was-
motion to release $6,000 to CJ Barty, with the,
Stipulation.
yeah, the stipulation that they need to
Add more loam and reseed
add more loam
and overseed.
and overseed.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Phyllis, you too?
Do you want to use the word loam though? Do you really want it to be more dirt on that, soil on that? Or can they just seed what's there, or you don't think it's a good quality?
I think it needs a little more loam, more organics in it, because I think it's too
Okay.
sandy.
Okay.
The-
Yeah,
the-
what if
the-
even some plantings on that hill or something, possibly?
Yeah, juniper or something would work. Yeah, the whole site was super sandy, so we never had a drainage issue out there,
Right.
which was great. But if you don't put down enough loam, you're not going to get a lawn in super
Yeah.
sandy soils. So that would be my only comment.
Yeah, so
did
ma-
we say loam and
so if I
seed?
if I revise it to say, leave it up to discussion with you to work out a plan?
I would
Or
just say
does it need to be more
to
specific?
maybe say loam and seed and establish to the
Establish a soil base.
Stable?
it's to stabilize further loam and seed to stabilize the site to the satisfaction of the inland wetlands agent.
That sounds good.
Erosion.
Be- You like
Yeah,
that language?
sorry, do you have that? Do you have all that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Do we need to vote again, or?
Would you want to read that back so we are clear?
Kristen moved to release $6,000 to CJ and
Barty. Yep.
with the stipulation to add more loom and seed to stabilize to the satisfaction of the Wetlands Agency.
Perfect, yeah,
You need to stabilize the site.
the site.
Okay.
All right, does your second stand?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right, so the next one is a request of Alfred Smith, owner, for a 5-year extension of the inland wetlands permit, number 16 through 20, for property at 297 Boston Post Road, East Lyme.
On this request, I did speak to the landowner and his attorney. They asked to, they just kind of assumed we'd want to site walk it, being that the last several reissuance or renewals, we've site walked the site anyway. It's been subject of previous enforcement actions. So while the request was also a bit untimely, yet I did receive the request prior to the actual expiration date. So that said, we can entertain it, but I just would recommend we take a site walk out there and take a look before we renew this permit, considering the previous enforcement actions.
I agree.
So when did you actually receive the application? Because I remember when I looked through it, it expired 9/18.
918.
September 16th, 2021.
Oh, that's when you received it?
I have a letter from Alfred H. Smith dated to the Wetland Agency. Dear members of the Commission, this letter serves as formal request for a 5-year extension of the inland wetlands permit that is currently in place for the property located at 297 Boston Post Road. Regards, Alfred H. Smith. And
Is that what the application says? The actual,
No, the actual application was issued back in 2016 and expires 9/18/2021. So 2 days before the expiration, he submitted his request.
Is this the property that had
Where
like
Pizzalia Construction will store
it's next to
their
the...
Where were you?
equipment.
there was
Been-
like
been there before.
stuff parked down there, and wanted them to
Yes.
clean it up, and
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So,
So is this an extension or is this a new application?
This is a request for an extension, and I believe this would be the last 5-year extension that the commission could grant on this application before they have to reapply for a new one.
So would this be 100 feet or 300 feet for the stockpile of soil?
The permit was issued under the 100-foot upland review area, so that's what you would be considering.
And the permit is for the stockpile of
Soil only.
soil. That's what the application is for.
Right, if you read,
Okay.
it's clear on there that it only permitted the soil stockpile to be ringed with silt fencing or hay bale.
Well, I know we definitely want to go site walk it, right?
I definitely think we need to sidewalk it.
So do we just
So
make a
we just
motion?
make a motion to add it to,
Sidewalk?
Yeah, add it to the sidewalk agenda for November, and we'll just continue discussion at our next November 8th meeting.
did I say September before? It's October, isn't
Yeah.
it? Oh my gosh.
I
Okay.
know.
It's what, it's like November,
Yeah.
why are we waiting so long?
Before we
I
Oh
know.
my gosh.
And if it's November 6th, I can't do it.
So
I
do we need a
already know
motion
that.
for that, Gary?
No, I can just do a
Okay.
consensus, add it to the sidewalk
Okay.
agenda,
We
Okay.
don't need a motion. Make it. Okay.
and
Sidewalk.
All right, so moving, we're good there?
Good there.
Okay, so moving on to pending applications, the application of Howard Hale, applicant Habitat for Humanity, owner to conduct regulated activities, including but not limited to construction of 2 new proposed single-family dwellings and associated appurtenances at a property identified in the application as 99, 101, and 103 South Beechwood Road, East Lyme Assessors Map 714, lots 43, 42, and 41.
as you know, the public hearing closed on August 9th, 2021. We continued our deliberations from our last meeting. Going forward, just to give the commission additional time to read through my memorandum as well as the other materials that were submitted into the record.
Yes.
That's where we leave it, and leave it to you. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dave, have you caught up to speed? Are you caught up to speed with that?
I am not, unfortunately.
So we have 4 of us then that can,
It's a quorum, even
Okay.
if he abstains,
okay.
so.
I have to.
So I have a question regarding the conditions. You did a approval, deny thing. Can you add to the conditions that the driveway would have to be permeable?
Like permeable pavers?
Yeah.
Um,
Also, that no other buildings would be built on the lot, such as a shed.
I don't know if we could condition that per se.
They can't be within a wetland.
The shed couldn't be within the wetland because they could always come.
But the whole thing is in the wetlands.
Right. So what I'm saying is they can come back and apply for a
They'd have
permit
to
for a
apply for a
shed.
shed,
They would
right,
have to
anyway.
apply for a shed, a wetland permit for it.
But you said, when I asked you, I think last time, you said that you would approve it. So,
Right, they'd have to make an application to our office for a shed, and then I could approve it. Because it would be probably constructed in the upland area, what will become upland. Because you're gonna move the wetland boundary moves because you're filling it. And so that new boundary becomes where we measure 300 feet from. And so they would have an upland area where they could apply for a shed, or I don't think they're gonna fit a pool. I don't know that they'll fit a shed either, but, there is a remedy for that. I almost call it a remedy, but if he was, I think, I plan, thinking if the house didn't have a garage, let's say. and he
but it
said
is going to.
It's going to, so you know, he may not need the shed. I don't know if you can condition they can't add any additional structures. You could probably condition limiting the, I don't know if you can even limit the lot coverage. Zoning does that.
Only wetlands.
I think, I don't know that, I think if any accessory structures, you'd be able to, I think you'd be entitled to apply for a permit. We could certainly deny it. I don't have to approve it if it was gonna create an impact or something adverse. But I don't know that we could condition that they can't apply at all. And you might be infringing on some rights.
But you can do the pervious
You
driveway?
could condition that the driveway be constructed with a
Pervious sidewalk?
permeable material, i.e. pavers, concrete, asphalt.
Wait, concrete? You would consider that pervious?
They have pervious concrete. We have it on the sidewalk,
Well, okay.
just
The
right outside the
asphalt, true.
brew house here. And it was a retrofit, so you can pour water. It's actually neat. So it's not, I don't think it's like the best product necessarily for New England long-term, because
Cracks.
as water freezes, it cracks. And it does have to be vacuumed, as does permeable asphalt. Pavers are probably the way to go, is my guess, with a kind of a stone substrate between the pavers.
Mhm.
But yeah, you definitely could condition that. I don't think that's an issue.
I think we've all struggled on this
Yeah.
as far as the loss of the wetlands, and it's just, you know, when you start thinking about trees and the trees that are gonna be removed, trees can transpire up to like 50 gallons a day of water, so where is that water gonna go now? When the trees are removed? So,
Downstream.
yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna, what doesn't infiltrate will run off the land. And I think what's difficult, particularly in this situation, is that they're building lots of record, and you're trying to balance.
What was it you said that there can only be so many times that someone can apply and that before you have to let them build something, or what was that?
We have, from some previous applications in town, we have some case history, we consider case law, where we have an existing lot of record. We had denied the applicant the permit. It was just happened to be his third application. He was denied twice, didn't appeal it. He came back with a third one. He was denied, and then he appealed that decision. When that was remanded back to the town, the stipulation was, well, you have to approve something. It's a legal lot of record. It was part of a subdivision. The man is entitled to a house. He has a reasonable expectation to build a house. With that, we said, fine. We issued a permit for a house having a 600 square foot footprint, and he was only to construct it within this small envelope, which he did. The house ended up being, I think, the 3 stories, although I don't know exactly how he managed that to keep it under the zoning code, but he did. And that's what got permitted in that case. So we're kind of recognizing that we know we have 3 legal lots of record. They're not merged, so we could either be looking at, like I said, 3 houses, or in this case, the proposed plan. The difficulty is that we know that the stormwater is I think the best they're going to get, short of having more land to accommodate for it. It does accommodate up to the 10-year storm. It's better than nothing, certainly.
aren't most things set up for 100 year storm?
Our current standards are a 100-year storm, but we would like to see. I don't know that every structure in town is sized for that. I'm sure there's stuff that was designed years ago that they had a different standard. Maybe it was a 50-year storm.
I know, I've been struggling with this one too. Anybody have any more discussion?
I just, feel like it's a, we're not, I don't know if somebody were to come back, you know, like if we deny this and they come back, like, I feel like this is kind of the best case scenario, for something to happen on those lots. Like, I don't, you know, I mean, if nobody's gonna come back and buy 3 lots and only build one, you know, it's not gonna be profitable for them, or you know, if they only build like one house, which would be the most ideal situation. So
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just surprised that Habitat doesn't build a house there. It would be free property for them.
Yeah, I don't know. They built 2 here on Flanders Road.
Yeah.
On lots that I thought were less than marginal.
Side hill.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how.
so why they overlooked these? My guess maybe it was the wetland thing, and they just felt that that was too cumbersome of a hoop to jump through. I don't know. It's a good question, though.
Well, we have
So-
to make a decision.
Either way, yes, today's the day we have to render a decision at a minimum.
Anyone have anything else to say, or do we just vote?
Well,
Make a motion?
I did draft language for you if
Yeah.
you wanted to use that as a starting point, you know, somewhere to jump off from, and I mean, I certainly can go through that memo again. I think overall, there's a number of findings in which it finds the application consistent and compliant with our regulations. And then I did provide 2 motions, one to approve and one to deny. I will just point out in the resolution for approval, there was a $6,000 performance bond, financial guarantee to be posted within the Wetlands Watercourse Agency for the purpose of ensuring the survival of the proposed plantings. Bond should be in a form accessible to town of East Lyme and the Wetlands Agency, eligible for release after 2 full growing seasons, provided the planting plan achieve an 80% survival rate. Indicating Exhibit L, a memo from B. Shear, he recommended an erosion and sedimentation control bond in the amount of $10,000 be posted. And that was really the only 2 items I really want to point out there. Otherwise, requiring kind of the standard conditions that they propose to use, you know, loam and seed with low maintenance lawns such as fescues. Contact the agent 2 days prior to construction. So a lot of the standard conditions there.
Does it doesn't say the performance bond of $6,000, unless I'm not.
No,
Like-
it doesn't specifically say 6,000.
Oh, did I say- I'm sorry.
The amount satisfactory to.
Satisfactory says it would have to be determined what that bond
Okay.
amount, and that's why I think I used that. My apologies. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I read there. Sorry.
And the pervious driveway would be part of that,
You could add that.
And
add that.
you would add that in.
if it was proposed.
Well, yeah, there's sometimes I think about this application, I'm like, there's gonna be flooding issues, but then I turn around and I'm like, well, there's 3 building lots, they're doing 2, they are putting in plantings. So I think the addition of the pervious driveway would be a good condition to prevent runoff. Both driveways would be pervious. Because my main concern with this is the flooding concerns. Since it's only a 10-year, they are increasing the rainfall rate off the site. So I think we're kind of stuck, but
Yeah, the catch basin. You know, the next question would, you know, how much can that catch basin handle? So hopefully it's. I mean, it's taking the road right now.
it doesn't look like it can handle that.
So yeah, that's, you know, maybe it needs to be cleaned out. I can talk to Bill about taking a look at that one catch basin and what may or may not be able to be done down there. Obviously, it's separate from this project, but yeah, we may see some increased flooding in that intersection.
Yeah.
Short of another proposal that I think the agency could approve, this does attenuate some of the stormwater. And certainly if we had development on the third lot, you know, that 10-year storm is gone for certain. I don't, I mean, where else would you capture that water?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is a toss-up of just trying to, you know, balance the development of the lots with trying to conserve the wetland.
Right.
You know, short of denying every application that came before you, but eventually that, I think we would lose in court at some point. So that's, as they are, legal lots of record. There's 3 of them.
Yeah,
So,
right. Well, as the chair, I'm not really supposed to be making a motion, so does somebody
No.
I'll make a
motion.
I make a motion to approve the application, with the conditions that are listed in the memo from Gary Gaishel, on September 13th, 2021. Also adding an additional condition that says that the driveways must be made of a pervious surface material. Is that
Yep, that sounds good.
sufficient?
Anyone
Sounds-
second?
Did you say the bonds?
Oh, well, the bonds are up
They're-
to
Okay.
They're already in the.
Okay, I second it.
second.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
I'm gonna deny, I'm gonna say no.
You're gonna say no. I'm gonna abstain. So we have 2 in favor, 1 abstain, and 1 deny.
And what about Dave?
He can't
They
vote.
can't.
I have to
Can't vote.
abstain.
Yes, abstain.
So
The motion can't carry. Is that correct, Fran?
wait, can it or no?
It's 202. We don't.
202, no.
Motion doesn't carry.
Nope.
All right, I'll approve it.
You
I'll
changing
approve it.
yours?
I'm gonna change. I'll
Well,
change.
you need it. You already took your vote. You need another motion. So you have to.
Can I re-motion?
You can make another motion. Yep.
I'm gonna make another motion
I'll second that motion.
to approve the application, with the conditions that are listed in
Okay.
Gary Gaishel's memo dated September 13th, 2021, with the additional, condition, sorry, I'm like flying all over, with the additional condition that the driveway must be made of a pervious substance,
Such as I would kind of maybe
such as
pavers,
pavers,
pervious concrete,
pervious
asphalt,
concrete, asphalt, gravel,
or other acceptable material.
or other
Gravel.
acceptable materials.
Or other materials, I would say acceptable to the inland wetland agent or town engineer.
Other acceptable materials that are approved by the Lyme, or that are okayed by the
East Lyme
Lyme
engineer.
wetlands
Yeah,
agent.
agent.
Or town engineer.
Is that,
Yeah.
or town engineer? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a mouthful.
So how long is the bond for,
How long is the bond for?
held for?
So
2 years.
the performance bond in this, for the plantings would be 2 full growing seasons, and then we'd have to determine what that amount is based on the amount of proposed plantings. And then the other bond was an erosion sedimentation control bond amount of $10,000. That would be held until the site is stable.
Okay.
So if they came in, what we'd probably do if they came in with 1 house at a time, we would bond each lot $4,000 each. Most likely we could do it that way.
And so what if there's flooding once they, let's say, hypothetically, build a house?
Then there's flooding.
Mm-hmm.
That bond doesn't apply?
The Well, if there was flooding or there was a washout or something during construction, I certainly could use the bond then. If the developer failed to correct the situation, usually because we hold the bond, they'll correct it because it's a lot cheaper for them to do it than for me to go hire someone at prevailing wages. So that's incentive for them to kind of keep the site together, but we would hold the bond until the whole site's stable.
So did you get my motion, the second one? Okay.
Waiting for a second.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor? 3, 1 abstain, 1 against.
Who's
So-
against?
Me.
Phyllis.
Okay.
That will pass. That will pass.
So now it passed. Congratulations.
You're welcome. This was a tough one. I appreciate your patience through the process. I know that you live across the street, so obviously you care about flooding. Yeah, no, we appreciate that.
We'll send you correspondence, a copy of the permit, and there's a 15-day appeal period from the date we publish. Appeal period from the day we publish notification in the paper.
Yep.
It's usually probably be Friday. You guys got any questions, you reach out to me.
I have several because this is new to me.
Okay.
And I'll just give you a call.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you, can I ask if you're available this week? Because I'll be back in and out all week.
Yeah, I'm later this week.
All right,
I'm around. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
So Gary,
Gotta get rid of that thing.
so,
Yes.
I can't figure out how do I get rid of it?
I don't know.
Gary, did you send out a letter for the Hathaway parcel?
Not yet. Working on that. Hopefully I'll have that done and over to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. I heard the
Quickly.
library, their presentation, there was a lot of people there, which is great.
Yeah. There's a lot of interest in the parcel.
Perfect.
I can't put control alt delete on this because there is no delete.
All right, so the next agenda item is the application of Kristen Clark for Cold Spring Lot Management LLC, John Drabick, owner for Nottingham Hill Subdivision Phase 5. Prepared for Kristen Clark, PE, English Harbor Asset Management LLC for an 8-lot subdivision at property 121 Upper Patagonia Road, East Lyme, Assessors Map 35.0, Lot 44.
Public hearing's been continued.
The public hearing's
No
been
discussion.
continued. Okay, so we don't need to discuss
No discussion.
anything.
Yep.
Okay. Next is old business. No old business reports. Chairman's report. I have nothing. Inland wetlands agent report. Caught off guard being chair today.
I guess to follow up, I issued 2 permits, one for the soil test pits up on Grassy Hill Road. They dug approximately 5. So that was kind of weird because it was an after-the-fact permit
Oh, this
based
is
on
one
the
that came up
the
last
complaint.
meeting. Yep.
So it's now been issued, but it's now like closed. Well, there's no, they're done.
Yeah.
So we issued it,
Right.
so it's legal.
How did it look?
Looks fine. It
Okay.
just- yeah, they just fill the holes in and.
Yeah.
So I guess they'd have to reapply if they wanted to dig more. I guess to be clear. So if they want to do additional exploratory soils testing, they will. The lot, based on the survey that they submitted with their application of the property, it's littered with wetlands. There's a lot out there. So from that way, there's an ecological resources, large, I think, acres of wetlands on the site. So anyway, and 42 Indian Woods Road for a deck, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 permits pending my review. So
Are they similar? More the small.
small, yeah. There's a rustic cafe wants to do an addition, so I'm taking a look at that.
We were discussing, when that was going to come forward.
So I think last month or the month before, you listed with the agenda all of the permits that you were looking at.
I can certainly do that. I mean, it takes up a lot of room on the agenda. I wrote them down here, just time crunch. I guess in terms of trying to address some of those issues, I started doing some math, and I think we'll go out with just a notice for an internship. I think we can get 20 hours a week out of someone, at least to start, and that'll maximize our funds. And I think at least meet the new minimum wage standard, and we'll hopefully that'll help so we can get some of this stuff finished and to the commission in a proper form.
Yes, I would like to know, my name is John Bialowans Jr. of 61 Walnut Hill Road. I would like to make a comment of your application that you just passed and everything else. I don't know if I can or not. It's up to Gary and the commission. But since the applicant made some comments, I guess I'm allowed to, and everything else. In one way, I'm happy that you approved this because you built right in the wetlands and everything else, and you called it forest wetlands and everything else. And Gary told me that forest wetlands is swamp. So I came and looked and everything else, and I had a couple people look at our property and everything else. We have about 1.5 acres of forest wetlands. So I will be drawing up some drawings and everything else, submitting it to you people with the application to put these houses in. Since you passed it for this on a really confined 150 by 150 lots and everything else, avoided your wetlands completely. It didn't come into effect with you people at all with your decision. You just said that, well, it's been, that he's going to improve it. It's been in the humanity. Don't look at it and shake your hand at me, sir.
What? No, look at the time, sorry.
No. Whatchamacallit?
I was looking at the time, brother.
Well, and whatchamacallit? And it's been in humanity for 19 years. They got denied permits to build on there. Whatchamacallit? Like I said previously, I was giving them a house and they didn't want it and everything else and everything. And so how come they didn't move that house down to that lot right there in East Lyme and everything else? So in a favor, in a way, one way, you guys did me a tremendous benefit, because when I talk to an attorney and a surveyor and everything else, and they look at this, all these records and everything else, they will be amazed, I think, how you approved this after it was so many times denied. After I was talking to Gary a little bit, I found more information. He was helpful and everything else, but enough is enough. What's good for one is good for another and everything else. That's my status and everything else. And and I don't care how much it frickin' costs me on money and everything else, because it is shameful that you do not obey your wetlands after you increased it from 100 feet to 300 feet. And you don't even, at this point now, you're not even going by your 100-foot regulations that were there before. It's really a shame how you guys decide on stuff. If you want to ask me some questions, I'm willing to stay here and talk. But I really feel that you didn't have enough information, prove yourself when you prove these 2 lots and everything else. I don't know what the heck to say, really. How do you judge your opinions on. You know, I know you work here free time and everything else, which I commend you guys to do, but it's not, how do you want to say, all because of what this and everything else. The history tells you itself that these were not buildable lots and everything else, right from the beginning and everything else. So I really don't understand this. And, you know, if I have to spend, like I did with Landino and that solar farm, $100,000 and everything else, and the town did not help me one bit. The DEEP didn't want to even help me because they know they made blunders right from the beginning, right from the drawings. And I will be coming in very shortly one of these days and everything else with some more information that I have found about this solar project that everybody thought was the greatest thing. I'm really, really ashamed and everything else how do you want to say, how this is operated. I thought you was for the taxpayers and everything else, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like, you know, you was for this applicant. I could see how you guys were looking at them and everything else, and I knew it was going to be passed tonight and everything else. So, you know, just remember, I will be coming in and everything else. I will be contacting my land surveyor and my, and he will be, you know, probably drawing up a map. I do have a plan already for 12 lots, and I will use it. And also, I will be using my road that has been on the property for over 100 years. I'm going to use that road. I asked Gary about it already, and he looked at it up and everything else, and he says, yes, you can use that road and everything else as the permanent road to get into the subdivision. I'll build mine just like how Dravic did his, a shared driveway and everything else. So, and my wetlands is 30, 40 feet deep. You walked it before with the groomed trails to the back when you gave my timber. What are you saying? Why don't you just say it louder? Take your mask off and take it off.
I'm saying it's inappropriate right now. What you're doing.
Why? If one person can
You're
say...
out of order, sir. You're out of order. You're not.
Well, how can I be out of order when he said something?
He was in process, sir. We were talking about his thing. We're not talking about your.
Well, I'm still talking about his
You're
thing.
lecturing us on our job.
What? What's not your job?
Yeah, we recognize your frustration.
Yeah, man.
No, I'm not frustrated now because I'm really happy now. Because now I have a good stance against you people.
Okay, well, if you have a buildable lot, then you can come.
I have 12 building lots.
Then come back with an application.
We look forward to seeing an application, John. I will just caution
No,
you.
because, you know, I will be pursuing this. I really don't care.
That's fine. We will.
You know what? I really don't know why you're on the commission and you speaking like I'm out of order. I am not out of order. If you want me to, I'll shut my mouth and you will see me.
So this application has closed, so the next meeting you can discuss it.
Oh yeah, I will. Well, I'll probably have, if I can get my...
At this current time, we can't can't entertain a discussion.
Okay, I'll be here at the public meeting. I'll be right up here. Just count on me coming here.
If someone wanted to appeal our decision, like, would it have to be the owner or whoever did, you know, like, could he go and appeal?
He's entitled to appeal the decision if he feels that it was error.
If you feel our decision was wrong, you're entitled to appeal it.
Like, procedurally,
Right.
you have that right, that he
Correct.
could
No,
appeal.
I understand that. Gary explained it to me.
Okay.
No, Gary was thorough and he told me everything. But it's just that the idea is
your
that...
actions on that decision, on that application, does not set precedent for future applications. Pursuant to section 10.3 of your regulations, and an application that requires a public hearing, you are to find that if there's no feasible and prudent alternative that exists, you can approve the permit.
In the regs.
So in the case of an application, I'll read it.
Submit your application and we'll review it.
Yeah.
So And in this particular case, I think that's what the commission did. But if he
So,
wants to file an appeal, he's more than welcome to. Any further discussion on this, because it could go to appeal, or your future application could go to a public hearing, we should have no more further discussion.
All right, thank you. So, what you call it? I'll ask them and see what they say. But I'm glad that you set this precedence.
It's not precedent, they did not
And
set
how is it
precedent.
not precedence?
Okay, are you an attorney, John?
Can I make a
Okay,
motion
well,
to
good, you know,
adjourn?
be
Yeah.
mad,
Motion to adjourn?
do whatever you
I
want.
have a motion to
but
adjourn?
I said
I'm
my
making a motion to
and
adjourn.
everything out,
Yeah.
and I don't
I'll
regret
second.
anything I said.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.